Okay, so let's see. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Please let me know when you're here. Please, as soon as you arrive, just say hello in the comments. Merry Christmas, everyone. Welcome, 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 Ikenna. Welcome, Ikenna. Thank you. Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to you. How are you doing today? Please, can you introduce yourself in the chat and let me know where you're joining from? Please, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please, Merry Christmas, everyone. Yeah, introduce yourself in the chat. Let me know where you're joining from. Soft walk. Awesome. Ikenna, thank you. Soft walk. Can I see? Yeah, introduce yourself in the chat. Well, do me one favor. I need you to share, I need you to copy the link and share it on your different handles right now and ask people to join. Let them know that we are live right now. Okay, please comment done when you've done that. But if you're still here, I'd like you to just help me say your name, tell me your name, tell me where you're joining from, please, and possibly tell me what you do. Okay? Merry Christmas, soft walk. Hey, Uche, hi. Great to see you. I guess this is Uche Ariolu. I know you're joining from Nigeria, obviously. Oh, yeah, Ukwosa from Ekiti State. Nice. Well done. Thank you. So please do me a favor. There are a lot of people that needs to be here, even from our community. So please share the link. Take the link right now and share on the different groups and on your favorite social media and ask people to join. You can use the flyer. You can use the flyer as well if you want, but just let people know that we are live so that they can join. Thank you very, very much for joining. Uchariolu, thank you. Great, great, great. Great to meet, great to see you. Thank you for joining. Yep, my Oga, Go Cinnamon, thank you for joining. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So I guess we can start at exactly 5 minutes after 8 because I think we have quite a bunch to cover. But let's do this and get as many people as possible to join. Som Kenechuku, thank you for joining. Awesome. Merry Christmas to you. Colin says Edike Egwam, thank you for joining. Good evening. Please let us know what you do, and then secondly, we want you to share the link. Copy the link and share and ask people to join. And let them know that we have started. So, and comment done when you've done that, please. Just say done. Just type done. Yeah, Collins. Collins, thank you. I'm also delighted to have you here. Delighted to have you here. So I hope that the background music is not affecting you, that you can hear me clearly. Obviously today is 24th night and you can expect that people are having great time. And for me, I'm around the office area and I think it's good. Thank you, Collins. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing the link. So we're starting now. We're starting now. So we're starting now. Yep. So we're going to start right now. Christmas sentiment. Okay. Okay, good. So we are going to be discussing how to find a co-founding partner, build a great early stage startup team. For all of you that know me, for as many people that know me, you realize that I'm big on. Thank you, Kenya. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing. Everyone, I'd like to see you say done once you've shared. Thank you. Now, for those of you that know me, you know that I'm big on startups. I'm big on talking about startups. And a lot of times people don't understand what we mean when we talk about startup. We've done this. So every time we have a session like this, I make a point of duty to try and define what we mean by startup, right? And so today is not going to be different. So today, before that, I just like to say again, Merry Christmas to everyone. Tomorrow is 25th, and it's a time for us to reflect and reflect on the reason for the season, right? For those of you that are not Christians, we Christians celebrate Christmas to to basically remember the birth of our Savior Jesus Christ. Now, so if you're not a Christian listening to this session, we do this because we believe that He saved us, and He came to save us, and for us, it's a time to reflect on the reason why He came. Okay, so thank you for joining the session. Thank you, Uche, for sharing on the communities. I appreciate you. All right. Thank you as well, Okwasha, for sharing. Thank you very much. So let's go. I believe that people will join. A lot of people are out there trying to celebrate and catch some fun. So, but I appreciate all of you that made it to this session tonight. So we're going to go ahead. So how to find a co-founding partner and build a great early startup team. So like I was trying to say earlier, that if you know me very well, you know that I'm very big on I'm very big on startup. And I ask people, I tell people, okay, I'll read that later. So I'm very big on startups, and I'm passionate, and I want to see people build high scale ventures, especially in Nigeria, especially out of the South and the Southeast region. I want to see people build high scale ventures. but and mostly leveraging technology. So for me, the definition of startup, and not just for me, this is our basic definition of startup, right? Is a an entity that is looking to build, to leverage or seeking a repeatable business model that can scale, leveraging technology to provide solution or service to a wide or big enough customer market. That's a summary or a rephrase of how I usually describe or define what a startup is. So um, there is usually, at other times when I define it, I'll say, hey, there are a lot of things you need to you need to factor in when you define startup, and those of so that there's some keywords which include scale, include speed, include technology, and include market. So I usually say it as significant market or market opportunity. That's how I usually say it. So for me, that's the definition of a startup, right? So the distinction between a startup and an SME is the fact that the SME um, just probably cannot scale. And what do we say? What do we mean when we discuss scale? Scale is the ability to expand the market or take the solution or the product and reach a large chunk of people. Yes, scale, not skill, not skill, scale, SCALE. Yes, Collins, scale plus. So I would say it is scale plus. Okay, you say scale, skill, technology, market. Oh, I will replace the skill with solution, right? But there's something that is lacking from your equation. I will also add speed, right? And the reason for the speed is because you need to be able to repeatedly find what is working for that audience. So I will replace that skill. Skill is important, don't get me wrong. But in terms of definition, I don't think it's a necessary definition to add to the definition of startup. But skill is very important. Okay, so scale, solution, scale, technology, or solution, technology, scale, market. Right? That would be my preferred my preferred equation. Yes, you can add speed. Thank you. That's great. That's very great. So, but today, what we will be discussing here today, let me see if I can make this better. I want to think it is better right now. I forgot that I've not been using the light. You guys prefer this light or you prefer this one? Do you prefer this one? Okay, I think this is better. Okay, so yeah, so you can see that scale. Today we're going to be discussing an integral an important part of building a startup, and that is team, right? So a lot of times um, when you are building a startup, because you're building a startup, the tendency is that you're going to you're going to have to um, build something that is really big, and you're going to grow. You're going to want to do it as quickly as possible, and the implication is that a lot of times you tend to need money. Okay, I said a lot of times because it's not always all the time that you need money. There are people who can build this without needing to raise money, right? And if you need to raise money, then even when you don't need to raise money really, a lot of times the investors are interested in the team. So usually there's something we call solution founder fit or solution team fit, right? So essentially describing whether the team that is trying to solve the problem have the prerequisite gravitas, skills and enough exposure and experience to be able to deliver the solution they are trying to do. So that is why team is a very important stuff. Most investors would, especially early stage investors, they usually invest in teams. And why do they invest in teams? Because they realize that ideas are not so a great team can take any idea and turn it around. That's usually what it is, right? Now, in terms of the startup, there are things that you need to have for your team. You need to have a technical founder, and you also need to have, aside from having a technical founder, you need to have people with business experience in the team, right? But some hardcore startup investors will tell you that they would prefer they would prefer a technical founder, like two technical founders without a business. I mean, if push come to shove, they will prefer two technical founders without any non-technical founder than to have two non-technical founder and no technical founder at all. So I think those are important things to take note of. And so with that off the way, I'm going to start this session immediately. And so I'm sure that a lot of you have heard the saying that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together. There's nothing more that underscores the importance of team than this quote or this saying. Unfortunately, I couldn't I didn't do enough research to find out who to attribute this quote to, right? So there's nothing that better, exemplifies the importance of a team than this quote. Why is that? Because a team would help you go further. So as we proceed, let me just start with a simple definition, right? So the simple definition of a oh sorry. So a simple definition of a team. Sorry, I think I just mixed up my slide. Okay, forgive me, I just mixed up my slide. One second. So let me check that again. So we're not discussing. So what are the benefits? Just so sorry, I think there was an error with that slide. But here we go. So what are the benefits of a strong founding team? Okay, I've discussed a lot of it already, right? But let me just follow my slide. All right. So a startup is as good as the founding team. Okay. The team could make the difference between failure and success, and the team usually will comprise of the co-founders, the early employees, the advisors, and the early supporters or investors. All right. So with that in mind, what are some of the benefits of a strong team? So in addition to everything I'd said earlier on, right? So the benefits of a strong team, okay, would include investors' confidence, and I think I alluded to this already. I alluded to this already. Investors' confidence. So it is often said that early stage investors, okay, they invest in teams, and I think I've talked about this. Now the second benefit of co-founding of a strong team, is the combined assets and network. All right, combined assets and network. Now, a startup success could depend on the team's combined network and assets. And what does this mean? What it means simply is that, hey, if we are working together on this startup, by the time I bring my network and the assets that I have, and you bring yours, and we join it together, we are a lot more we're a lot more likely to succeed than me than only me trying to use my network and my access. And those of you in the community, you will have heard me say a lot of times that you will have heard me say a lot of times. So you will have heard me say a lot of times. Sorry, Uche, you're distracting me. I should put Christmas lights. Okay. I'm waiting for your alert so that I can do that. Thank you. So you would have heard me say a lot of times that a startup, the success of a startup is actually dependent on the access. And I cannot overemphasize that a lot. So usually it's either you have access to you have access to the investors, you have access to the market, you have access to early customers who can pay you to use the product. If you don't have access, it is more difficult. It is very difficult if you don't have access. So it's very important. Access is very important. And then imagine that you have access and your co-founding team also have access. And you would later realize that this should also be part of your consideration for hiring your early staff, right? Don't just hire people because they say I can do something. Find out what else are you bringing to the table. We'll talk about that eventually, right? Now, complementary skills. You must make sure that you can leverage your combined skills, right? In lieu of cash. Okay, so assuming that you don't have funding, right? Assuming that you don't have finance, there is nobody to fund you. Are you able to combine your skills to advance the cost of your startup? Are you able to combine your skills to advance the cost of your startup without cash? You would realize that this is one of the major, major advantages of certain startups that succeeded. Okay. Now the other thing is enhanced worldview. Okay, and enrich ideation sessions. Now, understanding that startups are usually experimental. What does that mean? I told you in the definition that they are searching for a repeatable business model, right? What that means is that they are testing a lot of things as quickly as possible. Part of that testing requires ideation. It requires them to ideate. It requires them to ideate and do lots of testing. Okay, and sometimes you go into brainstorm session. Now, if you're the only one running the startup, chances are you are not going to have enriched sessions. So this is why you need a strong and experienced members of team, especially at early stage, to be able to drive to start your startup. All right. Thank you, Ebuka. Thank you for joining from Futo. Please allow me to take water. All right. So these are a few benefits, okay, of a strong founding team. So, who is a co-founder? Who is a co-founder? A co-founder essentially is someone whose contributions and impact on the team is of vital importance. It's of vital importance to the survival and growth of the startup at inception. And because of this, these people are compensated not just with salary, they are compensated with stock, significant stock in the startup. Co-founders are like, they may not be the original idea owners, but because of the importance that they have to the founding of the team, they are usually compensated with significant stock. So some investors will tell you that your co-founder should not have less than 20% of the startup, right? Anybody you designate as a co-founder, the person should not have less than 20% of the startup. Why is that so? Because except you're not going to raise money, you're going to raise more money. Okay, you're going to raise more money, and with every raise, you would have dilution. You have stock dilution. Now, what stock dilution does is, as much as, and I think I have to make this point because a lot of people don't understand it. So, as much as the quantity of the stock does not reduce, because they're not going to take some of your stock and give to somebody else, right? It's the percentage that reduces, the percentage ownership reduces. But because our mind has a way of playing tricks on us, when the percentage is reduced, right, there is a tendency that the people are likely going to feel are likely going to lose interest in the business. So as you raise more money, your co-founders are likely going to start losing interest in the business and may not be able to their contribute, much or their best in the business. So it is usually advised, and a lot of investors will usually advise, that the minimum share stocks that you give to your co-founder at the beginning should not be less than 20%. Okay, so that's so a founding team, on the other hand, comprises of all the people that started the business together. So they may not be your co-founders, right? They may not be co-founders, but they were part of the team that started it from beginning. So your they could be your um, your early hires, right? So long as they were with you from the beginning, they make up your founding team, right? So we move to the next one. So a lot of times the founding team could sometimes be interchanged for co-founders, but it's usually not. It's usually used to cover the early founders. But again, finding the right co-founder is crucial step in building the successful startup. And because of that, these are some of the tips that you can use to find the right co-founder. So what do you look out for in a co-founder? What do you look out for in a co-founder? So just like, all humans are not the same. All startups are not the same as well. So what you look for in a co-founder can vary. All right, it can vary from startup to startup. It depends on what the startups do. Okay, it depends on what the startup do, and so we're going to treat what you should look out for. All right, so um, what do you look out for? So generally, the following should be the minimum things you should look out for. The first is complementary skills. So you need to start with an audit first and foremost before you can talk about um, what are what is required. I think we'll get to that. So let me focus on this. Complementary skills. You need to find out, what are my skills? What does this startup need to succeed? And what are my skills, right? So, um, what other skills can complement mine in order to make this startup successful? I think that's very important. So the next thing you should look out for is shared values, right? Shared values and commitment. Does this person have similar beliefs like I do? Because if you have divergent values, for instance, let's say that you're somebody who believes in integrity, right? And your co-founder does not believe in integrity. You will discover that when you guys have to make decisions, for instance, their suggestions will be based on the things they believe in. And because it is based on the things they believe in, um, you're likely to have value clashes, okay, and that may not augur well for your startup. So mutual trust and respect You have to look for someone who um, has who you have respect for and who also reciprocates that trust and respect. Okay, so that's one key you should look out for. Now, you need to also evaluate past experiences. First and foremost, you need to confirm, um, have you had any dealings with this person before? Have you had any dealings with this person? What type of experience does this person have? Does that experience fit into is that experience necessary for the growth and for the success of this startup? All right. Then you should also seek compatibility. What do I mean by this? You know how they tell you in marriage counseling, for those of you that have attended marriage counseling, or those of you that have even done any form of single event, they will tell you to seek compatibility, right? It's the same thing in startup, in looking for co-founders. You have to look for people that you're compatible with. So somehow it's related to the shared values, right? But it's slightly different in the sense that, um, do you guys really um, do you guys really agree with each other? Do you understand? Now, and I'm not saying agree in the sense that you have to, um, agree with everything anyone says, right? That's not what I mean. What I mean, in a sense, is, do you guys really have this thing? You know how they say, "Oh, this guy completes me." Is it really true for you? It is important. You may say that this is not. Why am I saying this? This is not boyfriend and girlfriend or husband and wife. It's not a relationship that or marriage relationship. Why do you need compatibility? You will soon realize that if you're not compatible, you will easily magnify your fault lines. And when you magnify your fault lines, you will escalate things as quickly as possible. Okay, and guess what? The startup will likely crash because the people who are the startup will likely clash because be, sorry guys. So the startup will likely crash because the people who are the founders of the startups are not compatible. All right. So with that said, how do you look for a co-founder? How do you look for a co-founder? So a lot of people treat co-founding, co-founding starts like a vacancy opportunity. All right, they treat it like a vacancy opportunity, but I think it should be more of a life partner, dating type of search. Okay, um, if I was just saying it. The honest truth is that a co-founder is like your partner. Trust me, when push comes to shove, right? You need somebody who can stand for you, somebody who will not sell out, who will not sell you out, right? So it's the reason why you need somebody that can almost serve like a confidant to you, and you're almost sure this person will not sell you out. So in searching for co-founders, what how do you go about it? All right. So I suggest that in searching for co-founders, that you start with requirement audit and a checklist. So what do I mean by that? Okay. What does your startup need now, and what will it need in the future? All right. What skills can assist you in achieving those things that the startup need now or in the future? Now, what's your temperament? What's your temperament right now? So you want to look for, I was talking about compatibility before. That's essentially what I'm saying, right? What's your temperament? Are you someone who gets easily irritated? I'm sure you know that if you get somebody who also gets easily irritated, that you are like too fuel waiting for a matchstick to go to for the flame to take off, right? your two cakes of fuel. You're just waiting for somebody to light fire somewhere so that you can get into flame. Okay, so essentially, um, you want to, it matters in the grand scheme of things. All these things I'm saying, they matter in the grand scheme of things. So the second thing you need, I would suggest to you is search within your network first. Why am I asking you to search within your network? Your network includes your schoolmates, your old boys association, your colleagues in the office, your acquaintances, your acquaintances in online forums. All right. So I think you should prioritize people you have done significant work with in the past. It is very important. Why am I saying that? Because of the things I said before. It is people that you've had some sort of dealings with, that you're exposed with, that you're able to tell who they are. All right. It's one of the reasons I usually don't recommend, you know, play, organizations like Y Combinator. They have this platform that they call co-founder match, and I think I know why they did that. I know why they have that, because fundamentally, Y Combinator was originally set up to look for young graduates that can build technology, that can build tools, right? So they just believe that if you can build solutions, that you can learn business, um, whereas the business person cannot learn to be technical. The technical person can learn business. So because of that, they prioritize technical founders than business people. And so they built this tool that they say is co-founder platform, co-founder dating platform, where you can come and you can network and find a co-founder on those platforms. The honest truth is that a lot of them are transactional. A lot of people on those forums are transactional. They are looking for the next brilliant ideas and brilliant opportunities that they can partner with you on, in order to make money. Why that is correct and why that is good, um, that negates some of the things that we've already said. All right. Yes, prioritize people you've done significant work with in the past. Yes, Efe, thank you for highlighting that. All right. So the last thing is to do your due diligence. Do your due diligence. Um, I cannot overemphasize you doing your due diligence. It is very, very important that you do your due diligence. Why do you need to do your due diligence? You need to cross-check and validate all the information that you're being given. Validate those information, because you don't want to walk a bit down the road and then discover that some of the things that you've been told were lies. Yeah, Tinder for founders, exactly. So you don't want to go a bit down the road and discover that some of the things that you've been told are actually lies. And when that happens, mistrust. It has a way of breeding mistrust, and when it breeds mistrust, you begin to find that the foundations and fabrics of your relationship with your co-founder will begin to diminish. All right, and if you do not have a way of checking that, you would if you will eventually lose trust with this person, and the relationship will sour, and it will eventually impact the startup. Okay. I once had a call with a team, with a startup team, and the startup team, as they were pitching to me, um, it dawned on me, it occurred to me that I've seen this deck before, and I went back to my database. I just quickly went to my email and searched, and I found the old slide, and I quickly scanned through. I realized that the team looked different, but I wanted to confirm it. So I went to my email and I checked, and sure enough, the deck, the slide was there. And I asked the question. I discovered that the co-founder was now different. The lady that started acting as the CEO, um, was not there originally. So before we had another CEO and a business developer, and a business developer, and it was a business developer who sent me the deck before. And now the guy is no longer anywhere on the deck, right? So I calmly asked the team, I said, what about so and so person, right? And when I asked that question, I noticed that the girl who is now the CEO and who has been pitching to me, even though she's not very grounded in the business itself, the CTO is more grounded in the business. The girl was struggling to answer about that person. The CTO quickly jumped in and had to try to explain to me that the guy had moved on, this, that, right? And I'm like, okay. And I left it at that. But guess what? After the call ended, the girl sent me a message privately and asked me, he said, Mr. Nietzsche, how did you know about that guy? And what do you know about the guy? Right? And I'm like, I expect that you should know about the guy already. So I can't be speaking about the guy to you when you are the co-founder of the business. You should be talking to your CTO, your co-founder, right? So apparently, I doubt if that girl is still the CEO of that startup. So it will look like that question jolted them, and she realized that she's been lied to, right, about certain things. And it doesn't look to me like they're still running that business together. Now, why am I telling that story? Because if she had done the due diligence, she would have found out that this guy, that was somebody who existed, and she would have gotten proper information about this person before assuming the role of a CTO. All right. So, but she did not, and here we are. She's the CEO of a company that she does not have adequate history about, and so it's important that you do your due diligence when searching, when you're looking for co-founders, right? Now we move to the next thing. All right. So dealing with truant co-founders. Now, one of the major reasons that people run away from um, working together or getting people to work with them together is because they are scared. They are scared of what could happen to them if somebody that they call their co-founder happened to be dubious or happen to be truant or happen not to be real, right? Those are some of the things. And of course, they're scared of being stabbed in the back and all of those things that come with, partnership. So while most of the things I have said before can deal with the rest, truancy is simply people marking time, people not doing what they're supposed to do, but waiting to reap the benefit of that. So they are simply marking time. That's what truancy is, right? So how do you deal with those kind of co-founders, right? Um, so I think one way to deal with those kind of co-founders is to make sure that you document your agreement. All right. Now, documenting your agreement means you should engage legal people. But there are templates that you can use. But regardless of using those templates, which we call standard agreement, and I say you should use standard agreements, right? You should also consult professionals like lawyers and HR people. Okay, so don't just when you take the template, make sure that you're consulting people who know better before you sign the dotted lines. All right. The other part is that our laws do not quite work efficiently, especially in Africa, right? And so one of the things you can do in this regard is to incorporate in the US. So a lot of the startups that you know today that are big are all incorporated in Delaware, right? Why are they doing that? They're doing that for two reasons. One of the first reason is for ease of investment. Investors are more inclined to invest in startups that are incorporated in Delaware because they can easily reach their money. But the second reason, which is also why the first reason exists, is that the laws in the US work much more efficiently. And so if you're sued in the US, or if you sue in the US, you're more likely to get justice faster than when you sue in Nigeria. All right. So it's the reason why I encourage people to incorporate in the US. All right. So one of the tools that people use to deal with truancy is a tool called vesting, a vesting schedule, right? A vesting schedule is essentially a framework or a template. It simplifies founders agreement. So as somebody who is looking to build a startup, you must have a founders agreement. And that's what I was talking about when I was talking about documenting. You should make sure that you have a founders agreement. It should be one of the things that should be in your data room. Last time, nine days ago, when we talked about DEC, I told you about data room, why you should have a data room as a startup, right? Those of you in the community, I've talked about the data room before. Hopefully, one of these days, very soon, we will discuss the data room in full. Okay, we'll discuss the data room in full. But this is one of the documents that should be under your legal folder in your data room. Okay, now what this does essentially, it has some mechanisms that that helps you control truancy. And what does that mean? It makes it clear that whereas people own the stock, they don't own it until they have worked for it. All right, let me say that again. Vesting schedule makes it clear that whereas people own the stock, they don't really own it until they have worked for it. So a vesting schedule has, like, I think it has key mechanisms that namely the cliff. It's the cliff. Then it has aside from I think the cliff is the major mechanism in end. So let me explain what this vesting schedule does. So let's say, for an instance, that I am your co-founder, and we started the startup together. We shared the stake. Let's say I get 40% and you get 60%, right, of the startup. Now, the vesting schedule typically says that none of us own the shares that we have apportioned ourselves. Okay, that we have apportioned ourselves until we have worked for it. Okay, and mind you, investors will always insist. In fact, there are some investors that the moment they come on, they are going to require you, even if you had a vesting schedule before, they're going to require you to do a fresh one, because especially if it is your first fund in, they're going to require you to do a fresh one. Why? Because they don't want you to work for 2 years and run off and run away with the money, for instance, right? They want you to make sure that you are committed to the startup. So a vesting schedule, it's usually like it's 4 years minimum, right? It's 4 years minimum. And what does it do? When it introduces the cliff, and the cliff requires you to, there is a period when you do not own anything, regardless of how long you've worked, until you've met that condition. So a cliff can be 6 months, a cliff can be 1 year, but typically a startup vesting schedule of 4 years requires a 1 year cliff. Okay, it requires a 1 year cliff. So what it means is that until you've worked for at least a year, you do not own any stock, in as much as you have 40% of the startup, or you have 60% of the startup. Every co-founder is supposed to have a is supposed to have a, a, a vesting schedule. It's supposed to be a signatory to the vesting schedule, which is part of the founders agreement. All right. So that's what a cliff is. And so I think at this point, because of time, we're going to just leave this here. We're going to have a part 2 where we discuss other things like ESOP, which is employee stock option, that you can use to engage your early team, early employers, all right, early founders. So a lot of times, if you for you to get, experienced people on your team as a startup founder, you probably need to reserve some stock for your early employees. I think at this point I can stop and take your questions. If you have questions, please post on the group, on the chat comment, so that I can take the questions at this point. And hopefully we can do a part 2 and deal with the team. Today we just focused on co-founder. The next time we'll deal on team. But right now, let's take questions. And for those of you that do not have questions, I would appreciate that you go to this link and let me have your feedback in order to help us improve this. All right? So please post your questions in the comment so that I can answer the questions. Maybe it can help us provide more context and more details. So thank you as I wait for your questions. Please, I'm waiting to see the questions in the chat. Please do well to post the questions. Thank you very much. Thank you, Collins. Thank you. Thank you, Collins. Does anybody have question? Does anybody have question? Okay, so what is all right. So some Kenneth says, in a situation where someone can't find a co-founder, can one build a successful startup solely? So some Kenneth, yes, especially if you're a technical founder. If you're a technical founder, like I've said before, and I posted on my, like I've said before, a lot of startup investors will be happy to invest in a solo technical founder, all right, than to invest in 2 non-technical founders, even if they have experience, all right? So most startup investors will prefer to invest, like take for an instance, Marquesian of Hotels.ng is a solo founder. He got investment because he was a technical founder. All right. So yes, it is possible to build a startup as a solo founder. And I think Peter Hayes here of Church.ng is also a technical solo founder. All right. Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. Thank you. Yeah. So Somken, I think I've answered your question about how likely you're to raise fund. You can raise fund if you're a technical founder. I don't advise solo founders for non-technical founders. I advise you can be a solo founder as a technical founder. Yes, you can succeed as a solo founder because you can raise fund. Do you vet your early investors and employees the same way you vet your co-founder? Absolutely, Collins. You should. Now, you should vet your early employees and your early investors the same way. Why? Because your early employees are very important to the founding of the business. I said in the beginning that combined assets, I keep saying that, you know how we say it in Pidgin? Say, tree near tree. 9 makes a say monkey smart. Or monkey smart now because tree near tree. What does that mean? What is the implication of that for us as startups? The implication is that most successful startups are startups that have they have assets. It's either they have access to the customers. So sometimes they didn't just build. So they either have access to customers, all right, or they have access to investors. Okay, so they didn't just wake up and start building. I told you guys in the last session how Paystack started. Paystack started because Shola built a product and identified OO. OO is an influential person in the tech Nigerian tech startup scene. He reached out to OO and said, "I just built this product." OO introduced him to Y Combinator. Meanwhile, he had applied to Y Combinator before and did not succeed. But once OO wrote a message to Michael Sibel about the product, Michael Sibel became interested. And that was how Paystack became the first startup to get into YC, right? But the same OO also introduced Shola to other investors in the Nigerian ecosystem. If he did not have OO, it probably would have been very tough for him. But that's not all that happened. That's not what all that OO did. OO was also able to introduce him to other influential people in the tech ecosystem. He had access to, the likes of what's his name now? The co-founders of the big cabal, tech cabal, right? And at that point, there's this thing we used to have. Tech cabal built a forum, we call Discourse. And on Discourse, almost all the tech people there will go there and be chatting and be engaging ourselves. And because they identified that developers were their key target market, they quickly reached out to developers through that platform. And developers started using, they didn't need to advertise. So that was access for them. They had access to the tech community. And so if you have people with access, if you combine all of those together, you will do much more. You will do much more than, you do much more than the people who does not have access, all right? So the question, Collins has another question. Is it possible to have an unofficial co-founder? Let me understand what you mean. Say you have someone who contributed significantly to the development of the startup, but is not registered as co-founder. He's not a co-founder if he does not have stock in the business. I don't understand what that means, right? But he's not a co-founder if he does not have stake in the business. So let me see. All right. So Mr. MM says, you mentioned early founding team to include co-founders and employees. Yes. They are early founding teams. So essentially, they are the first set of people that are basically using your that are joining you to build this product. All right. Okay. It says, what's the minimum makeup of an early startup team? So the minimum makeup of an early startup team depends. It depends on what you're building, but usually, because you're probably starting out with limited resources, it's important you don't have an over-bloated team. So typically, when you're looking for early team members, when you're employing early team members, you emphasize utility. What do I mean by utility? Emphasize people who can do more than one thing for your startup. All right. Emphasize utility much more than So for instance, you can get somebody who probably can do business development and can also do customer support, and maybe can also do finance, right? So as opposed to getting just a business developer who's so focused is business developer, because you're a startup and you probably do not have enough resources, and truth be told, as an early team, you would typically touch almost all the areas of the startup. You know how a lot of times you do firefighting, you would have to touch a lot areas. It's one of the reasons why I tell young professionals to prioritize working in a startup as opposed to working in a large corporate. When you work in a large corporate, your roles are very, very defined, okay, and it does not give you enough room to learn so many things, right? To expand your experience. So usually, if you work in a startup, if you are smart, you should be able to do 3 or 4 different things. A lot of times people complain about these things, but in essence, it is helping you to become better, right? It is helping you to become better. If you don't want that, you probably want to go to a large corporate where the roles are defined and you can only just be facing only one thing and nothing more. All right. So why am I saying all of that? Prioritize utility, okay, over specialization. Prioritize utility as for any startup teams. All right. Yes. So yes, monkey smart now because 3 near 3. All right. Yes, Ezra has influence and he's also a technical person. Such exactly. Yes, that's one of the reasons why he went for him. All right. And besides, they were both in covenant together. Is it covenant or Babcock now? I think they were both in university together. So that's also important. Okay. Um, I hope vesting schedule, especially its basic document structure, and probably an example can be discussed at length. Yes, in another session, we will discuss that at length. All right? Ikenna, thank you. Why are early investors included in? Yes, because early investors are included because they give, I talked about assets. I talked about assets. They give you assets. I don't know if you've noticed that a lot of early stage startups include some of their advisors and investors in their pitch deck, right? They're early investors and advisors in their pitch deck. Why do you think they include them? They include them because a lot of them have value and they want to emphasize the value, which is one of the things that they do wrong when they come to pitch. They show them on the deck, but they don't emphasize the value that those people bring. The reason why they are in that deck in the first instance. I think you should understand that. So, what other forms of payment or convincing can you give, say, to your prospective team members if you want to build your early stage teams but do not have money to pay them initially besides vesting? So please understand that if you do this right, and I think this also brings me to something I need to highlight. Thank you for asking that question. A lot of times I tell people, if you do this right, there's a likelihood that you could actually go for somebody who has a job somewhere else. Okay? You can get somebody who also has a day job and works for you, works on your startup part-time. So usually you can decide to be full-time while this other person is part-time. And part of it is so that they are able to augment your inability to pay them. But for whatever it's worth, look for a way to be able to pay something as stipend. All right. So that's very important. If you The next one says if you use, and that's Collins. He says if you use a vesting schedule to keep the co-founder's zeal initially, how do you keep it up after the goals in the vesting schedule? My brother, why should your startup still be talking about zeal after 4 years? Right? It is 4 years. 4 years is enough time for you to decide whether you want to continue to do that thing. If it's not it's the reason why I tell people the startup you should not be building for 6 months. In 3 months, you should be ready to go hit the market. You should be ready to validate and know what is working and what is not working. Discard what is not working, amplify what is working. And if it's not working altogether, if you try it again for another 6 months and it's not working altogether, close it, right? And look for something else, pivot and look for something else to do. 4 years is a long time to keep somebody on one thing, right? I think it's important for you to understand that. Okay, so thank you guys. I don't think there's any more questions. Thank you so much. We can round up this now. Thank you so much. I hope that this has been worth it for you. I hope that it's been worth it for you. Please let me know. Let me know in the comment. And also, please go and fill this form and let me know what you think so that we can improve the session going forward. Just let me know the adjustments you would like for us to make. Thank you so much, Somkene. Thank you so much, Collins. I appreciate that you're able to come to join this session. Thank you. I appreciate all of you. Awesome. Thank you. Please. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And Merry Christmas to all of you. Merry Christmas to all of you. Please do let me know in the chat. Thank you, Gosin. Thank you, Uchariolo. Thank you. Thank you, Ikenna. Thank you, Daniel. All right. Thank you. Who else? Let me see. Olisa Chukwebuka. And yeah, soft work. Okafor Ikenna. Thank you. Thank you, all of you, for coming. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you. All right. So for those of you building something, we'll be starting I'll be starting a program in January. It's an advisory. It's an investment readiness and an advisory program that I'm going to just be selecting a very few startups. There are just about 5 startups. I think I have only two slots left. We're going to be selecting about 5 startups, and I'm going to take those 5 startups, hold them by the hand, and in 3 months, I'm going to help them. Sorry, guys, I think I have. In 3 months, I'm going to help them build their business and get them investors, get them to the market and get them ready to face investors. All right, that's what's going to happen in 3 months. So between January and March, I'm going to be doing this with about 5 startups. So if you think that your startup is one of those that we should, so you can send me a message on WhatsApp and we can look at it. But it's a paid session, just so you know. It's a paid session, but it's worth every money you pay for it. So thank you very much for joining the session. I appreciate this. Collins says, before you go, sir, could you talk about Startup South? Okay, thank you. Startup South is obviously, sorry guys, let me be sure. Okay, so Startup South is our community. It's a community of founders. In case you're not already in the community, please join the community. Please put on the light for me. In case you're not, sorry guys, if taking light, I'm not sure what went on. In case you're not already in the community, please use you can use the link I'm typing in the chat to join the community. Is our community of founders where we're inspiring founders building high-scale ventures in Nigeria, but with special focus on the south and the southeast of the country. All right. So if you're not there, this is your link to joining the community. It's this is the link to joining the community. You fill that form. And it takes you to, you get an email in your inbox. Join the Slack channel. Introduce yourself and say your city. Once you say your city admin is going to add you to your city WhatsApp group. Okay, And in 2024, we're going to have a blast in 2024. It's going to be a lot of learning sessions and opportunities. And those of you in the community that you already have a business, we have Soho. We have a partnership with Soho. We'll provide more details on that. Zoho has business tools that you can use, and we're giving you almost 500,000 naira in credit to use Zoho. In case you have never heard of it, um, please, when you get into the community, say that you want, especially on Slack and WhatsApp, say that you need access to the Zoho credit, and you will get the link to get it. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I think we can go now. Ikenna, the repeat will be based on how the first one goes. Whether it's going to have a repeat or not will depend on it will depend on how the first one goes. I would I look forward to seeing you again in the next session. Um, I think I know what the next session I'm going to do is. Yeah, I mean it's already on the group. I would let the people in the community know what the next session is. Thank you, and good night, everyone. Merry Christmas to all of you. Bye. Bye. I just let you say your byes and we go. Bye, everyone. Awesome. Awesome. Bye bye. Bye, everyone. Cheers.